it to me. I mean, if there's any statement that captures the essence of Jesus' message, it is that statement. And it's not just about him. It's about us. As we do it to the one of the least of these, we have done it. We have affirmed that we are part of God's family, that we are connected, that we are one, that it's not just about us, that it's about how we show up in the world. And to do it to one of the least of these means that we are contributing something precious to that energy, to that dynamic, to that reality, to that experience. It is, in essence, who it is that we are. Now, Jesus was playing some mental gymnastics. He was trying to help his disciples understand how to see the world, how to see what it is that they were doing, how to show up. And I think there are valid tools that help us to focus our minds. Because, we have these monkey minds that can go all over the place. And we have these thoughts and feelings and attitudes that have been placed in us, or we have taken on as a result of our life experience and how we've grown up and things that we've done and all the different situations and experiences that have occurred in our life. But given all that, we still have the capacity, we have this frontal lobe brain that we can reason and think through what it is that we need to, and we can see the truth. We can see and experience the truth, that as we do it to the least of these, we do it unto the Christ presence in the world. We bring the Christ presence into the world. That's how we honor the Christ. We were formed for and are a part of God's family. The song goes, red, yellow, black, and white. We are precious in God's sight. But it could just as well say straight, gay, left, or right. We are all precious in God's sight. That it doesn't matter what the experience. It doesn't matter if you're a serial killer, or a sociopath, or a psychopath, or any of the quote, evil expressions of humankind that we label and we place on the wall. And yet we recognize that in unity, we don't believe in evil as a power. It may be an outcome, but it's not an individual, it's not a separate power. That, in a sense, evil is error thought. And error thought is any thought that separates us from the love and the energy of God, and that separates us from each other. So error thought is any thought that creates a sense of separation. And any thought that creates a sense of oneness, that affirms who it is that we are, that affirms that we are connected, that recognizes that we are brothers and sisters on this planet, that recognizes that we are all related, and it doesn't matter whether we are living in the United States of America, or Iran, or Iraq, or Korea, or North Korea, or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. It's interesting that how we treat and talk about leaders of other nations is a statement about us, not them. It's a statement of how we show up, how connected we are to what's going on, how we understand what's going on in the world. I remember Ronald Reagan in the early 80s, and he got up and he talked about the Soviet Union as the evil empire. And that just twisted me, that whole concept of making that kind of accusation. However, when you saw pictures on television and he met with Mikhail Gorbachev, and you saw the warmth, the friendliness, and the connection that was going on in that dynamic, even on television, even on camera, you recognize that there is a sense of connection that goes beyond the judgments we make and put forth about the collective whole, or what it is that we may be doing politically. And that I believe it was that warmth and connection and that willingness to be present on a one-on-one basis that changed the world. It's that which changed the world. It's how we do it unto the least of these. And if we categorize somebody as the least of these, and yet we are able to show up with warmth, with friendliness, with encouragement, we change the world. We change the world. That's how the world changes. One person at a time, one energy at a time, one dynamic at a time, one thought at a time, one experience at a time. We don't have to like someone to be their brother and sister. I don't always like my brother, my Santa Barbara brother. I don't always like what he says and does or believes or his politics, and we argue a lot, but it doesn't mean that we don't love each other. And so we can love each other and disagree. We don't have to agree to be connected. We have to just recognize that we are connected and that the disagreement is just part of us working out how it is that connection might show up in a positive and powerful way. We have to separate the goats and the sheep in our consciousness. That's part of the metaphysics of our spiritual experience, that we recognize that there are thoughts that are good and loving and powerful, and there are thoughts that often create a sense of separation and that don't do it unto the least of these in the way in which they might. And so our job is to understand and recognize those and to bring them into a harmonious experience and recognition. And when we show up in the world, and the world shows up, and we feel those goats begin to express themselves, we have the intelligence, the wisdom, the skills, the understanding to go to here, to get into our frontal lobe reasoning experience in our life and change how it is that we show up. We can do that. And I don't care whether you're 15 years old or 85 years old or 110 years old, you still have the capacity to do that, to function in that way. We were formed for God's family, and that is our divine purpose. I want to close today with my poem, which, as always, is available out by the counter. If you want a copy of the poem today, you can get that. I think about eternal bliss, about heaven as my final place. I think sometimes that I might miss my divine appointment to this space. But then the thought comes into mind how lonely it might be if only a few in humankind could enter and think they were free. The path to peace and love and joy must be open to all to find, even those who often annoy and put negative thoughts into my mind. The arc of thought that binds us all is the notion that family are we. It is this that will stop our rapid fall and set the stage for us to be free. We were formed to be God's family tree. Brothers and sisters are what we are. And all we must do is be willing to see that the journey there is not that far. As we stand on the hierarchical ladder with our noses held in contempt of those we think do not matter and that somehow we are exempt, but what we know is really very clear. Our poor treatment of those least among us is a clear indication that we don't hear that we're riding on an out-of-control bus. So please, for your sake, take another look at this train wreck of a person before you. He is your brother, your sister. You're on the hook. She is the answer, not just another clue. It may not be your natural choice to see others through new eyes, but know that it is this inner voice that will at last free you from all of the lies. And you are a new creation, a child of the living truth, a brother and sister to all nations, and a gift of eternal youth. God bless you.